President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's name included in quarterly publication of US Federal Register of individuals who have chosen to expatriate. Minister Gunawardena says foreign loans will have to be obtained for large-scale government projects, regardless of the circumstances. Lanka warns about President Secretary P.P. Jayasundara's letter.
රජයේ ආයතන නිලධාරීන් අපි ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා වෘත්තීය සමිති ක්‍රියාමාර්ග මේ කොරෝනාස්සේ කැඳවා ගන්න ලෑස්ති වෙන්න එපා.
Why was the director of the Kurunagala Teaching Hospital transferred? Fourth edition of the Gum at the Door-to-Door report digitally launched.
Hello there, very good evening to you. You're watching Primetime News on News First. Let's take a look at those stories in detail. Now, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's name was included in the quarterly publication of the US Federal Register of Individuals who have chosen to expatriate.
Published on the 8th of May 2020, the entire quarterly publication notes the listing contains the name of each individual losing United States citizenship, respect to whom the US Secretary received information during the quarter ending on the 31st of March 2020. The official website of the US Federal Register notes long-term residents are treated as if they were citizens of the United States who lost citizenship.
A passenger on board the aircraft that returned from Dubai last morning has tested positive for COVID-19.
197 passengers were on board the US-303 aircraft that returned to the island from Dubai last morning. The group of passengers included Sri Lankan expatriates living in Dubai. Following tests conducted at the Bandar Naik International Airport, one individual among the passengers had displayed symptoms of COVID-19 and was thereafter admitted to the Negombo General Hospital. Following tests, it was confirmed that the individual had contracted the virus. The patient was then transferred to the Infectious Diseases Hospital. The patient is a 44-year-old resident of Piliandala. Commander of Sri Lanka Army Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva said all passengers on board the aircraft have been directed for quarantine.
COVID-19 tests were carried out today across the Central Colombo MOH division. The Central Colombo Medical Officer of Health said a group of people from Deans Road, Maradana was selected at random for these tests. Among those who tested were staff officers of the Colombo Municipal Council and health workers.
The College of Medical Laboratory Science today highlighted problematic issues with regard to PCR tests conducted to detect those who had contracted COVID-19.
Instead of developing facilities at the National Hospital and other medical institutions to increase PCR tests, the Health Ministry continues to provide samples to external laboratories in an ad hoc manner. The reports of 3 suspected cases and a special grade nursing officer at the National Hospital who tested positive for the virus were subject to repeat testing at laboratories under the Ministry of Health. Repeat testing confirmed the patients were negative for COVID-19. Similarly, flawed reports were released on the 26th, 27th and 28th as the Ministry of Health had given samples for testing to external laboratories. It should be made clear none of the state laboratories had released any flawed reporting thus far. Experts in laboratory science across all laboratories are gearing up for any task. At the same time, the laboratories of the Health Ministry have not yet reached their full capacity. Against this backdrop, we request Health Ministry officials to reveal why samples are sent to external laboratories, while also revealing the officials who are taking such decisions and telling the country as to who should bear responsibility for the confusion pertaining to these matters.
The All Ceylon Jamiatul Ulama has written a letter to Director General of Health Services, Dr. Anil Jasinha.
In the letter, ACJU requests to grant permission to bury Muslims who succumbed to COVID-19. The ACJU has extended their sincere appreciation to all the healthcare staff working at the front line during these challenging times to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic in Sri Lanka. In the letter, the ACJU said, and I quote, "In line with the World Health Organization guidelines and as adopted by as many as 180 countries, we reappeal once again to your good self to reconsider the decision taken to dispose of the dead bodies of confirmed and suspected cases of COVID-19 and provide the option of the burial of bodies while complying with all mandatory precautions and with the supervision of police and PHI," unquote.
Against a backdrop where every other country in the world has permitted for burials to be conducted, it is disappointing to note that several people are of the opinion that Muslims should be cremated. We have informed each and every responsible authority regarding this.
The balance of the COVID-19 Healthcare and Social Security Fund has surpassed Rs 900 million. The Sri Lanka Foreign Service Association had donated Rs 2.8 million to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa as a contribution towards the COVID-19 Healthcare and Social Security Fund. Governor of the Sabaragamuwa province, Tikiriko Bekaduwa, and several others in the region had also donated checks towards the fund. The President's Media Division noted donations to the COVID-19 Healthcare and Social Security Fund have been exempted from taxes and foreign exchange regulation.
Several parties expressed their views regarding the letter issued by the Secretary to the President, Dr. P.B. Jayasundara. Co-Cabinet spokesperson Bandula Gunawardena expressed the government's stance on this letter.
The main sources of revenue to the government have ground to a halt as the economy has been closed. The money that the government collects via the customs has also been depleted heavily. Excise revenues have decreased drastically. The inland revenue cannot charge tax income or other items as people have no income at the moment. However, the payments that have to be paid to the state sector, the pensions, the allowances for the elderly, the interests that need to be paid on debt, the sum of the payments, all need to be made. I think the foreign loan repayments and interests, that is the biggest concern. Annually, there is about $5 billion to pay in terms of loan installments and interests. So it is with great difficulty that the state financial management is carried out. As the head of the state sector, the Secretary to the President, Dr. P.B. Jayasundara, has written to the heads of various state institutions making a personal request. This is certainly not a statement by the government. The Secretary to the President is the head of the state sector. If there is anyone who is okay with doing so, they have been asked to contribute to the Widows and Orphans Fund. As someone who works within such an institution, he has the right to make that request. Similarly, someone who is unwilling is entitled to avoid making this donation. Therefore, we as the government condemn the spreading of false news. Without an official letter, communique, gazette or circular, this letter has asked for a contribution to the Widows and Orphans Fund. Therefore, neither I nor the government see this as a mistake.
ඒ නිසා එහි කිසිදු වැරද්දක් මම නම් දකින්නේ අපි රජයේ දකින්නෙත් නැහැ.
ඔබතුමාලා පහුගිය කැබිනට් තීරණවලදී තීරණය කරනවා මේ මාර්ග ඉදි කරන්න වගේ මේ ප්‍රාග්ධන වියදම් වලටත් යම් මුදල් ප්‍රමාණයක් අතරින් වියදම් කරන්න. ඒ වගේ දේවල් සීමා කරගෙන ආණ්ඩුවේ මේ දවස්වල තියෙන මේ අර්බුදය කළමනාකරණය කරගන්න බැරිද?
එහෙම කරන්න බෑ. මොකද රාජ්‍ය
At the last cabinet meeting, it was agreed to set aside money for things like road network developments and capital expenditure of that nature. Can't the government limit such expenses and assist in managing the current crisis? That cannot be done. That is because when you come into foreign funding and loan agreements, we have to sign extremely complex documents that are the size of big books. So for those project loans, we have to start a project a certain time or pay a penalty for it. So the notion that we obtain money allocated to treat patients to construct roads is merely what's seen on the surface.
පාරවල් හදනවා කියන අර්ථයෙන්නේ සරල මතු පිටක.
Mahinda Rajapaksa has now become a passive character. He is not utilizing his massive political experience while P.B. Jayasundara is dragging the economy to its doldrums. Some are claiming this to be a personal request of P.B. Jayasundara. He is not a person who holds much popularity to make personal requests. P.B. Jayasundara, who is blacklisted in the Supreme Court, has sent a letter from the President's office to the heads of all state institutions, the Attorney General and the Auditor General. This is not a request, but extortion. State sector employees, including those in the security sector, such as the army and the police, don't have much choice. They have to abide by the government stance. P.B. Jayasundara is engaged in an indirect attempt to forcefully obtain funds.
සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම වක්‍රාකාරයෙන් කරන බලහත්කාරකමක්.
Sri Lanka has faced massive issues even in the past. I will be donating my pension. I feel it would be better if the President can start by doing so. I am making this request as it would be worth making it to him.
PB ජයසුන්දර කියන
PB Jayasundara, who is on bail for massive thefts, has destroyed the economy in asking around 1.5 million state servants to donate half of their salaries. He is attempting to exploit this as well. I have a few proposals on how funds could be earned. Former President Maithripala Sirisena has said that the losses that had taken place due to bond scams between 2005 and 2015 amounts to 889 billion. During the administration of the Good Governance government under President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, the loss due to the bond scam was 11 billion. However, 26 institutions involved in this have been blocked. Those funds are there. Former President Maithripala Sirisena, who attended the opening ceremony of the Lotus Tower, said that 2 billion rupees had been swindled. There is a house in Malvana belonging to Basil Rajapaksa who is managing the current situation. We can earn funds by selling that house. Don't meddle with the salaries of state servants. Details regarding the $7 million loss incurred due to the MiG scandal, along with the losses incurred during the procurement of aircraft by Sri Lankan Airlines, have been revealed in the recent past. These funds can be used. PB Jayasundara has been repeatedly saying that the salaries should be taken off. This was expressed in a letter only yesterday.
සමහර ජනාධිපතිතුමා එකපාර පීරයා වගේ ඇවිල්ලා PB කී කතාවට මම එකග නැහැ
කියලා ඒක වැටුප නිසිපරිදි මේ බැංකුවට දාන්න කියලා කියයි.
PBR එහෙම කිව්වලා වීරය වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්.
එහෙම ප්‍රාතිහාර්ය වෙන්න පුළුවන්.
PB නේ කියන්නේ පඩි භාගයක් ජයසුන්දර කියන මොකද එතුමාට වැටලා තියෙනවා.
මේක කිසිම තැනක අනිවාර්ය කිරීමක් සිදු කළා නැහැ. එතුමා ඊටාම කාරුණික ආයාචනයක් කළා තියෙනවා.
පෞද්ගලික ආයාචනයක් නම් ඇයි ජනාධිපති ලිපි ශීර්ෂය යටතේ ඉදිරිපත් කරන්නේ?
PB Jayasundara is very clear. As a secretary to the president, he has made a request to contribute some part of the salary. It has not been made mandatory.
ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් අනිවාර්ය කිරීමක් සිදු කළා.
There has been an approval granted to raise 31.7 billion in domestic and foreign loans for the Central Expressway. Another approval has been granted for 15 billion rupees to build 105 kilometers of road. It is very apparent to anyone with general knowledge that the country has been engulfed by an economic crisis. In this situation, there needs to be a list of priorities. I would like to ask Dr. PB Jayasundara, when he approved the funding to obtain loans for roads, was that a priority? Is that why you have requested a voluntary salary cut from the state sector employees?
මම කැමති ඒක සීමා කරන්නට.
I like to limit it to a request, not an order, a request. Whether it was ethical now, it is different for a different time. The opposition is terrible. I do not want to whitewash the LTTE, but the LTTE wasn't as selfish as this opposition. Most of the state sector sacrificed much and contributed greatly to bring this government into power. We request the government not to destroy the trust the government has placed in you. Instead of spending tens of millions on roads, work to give the state sector their full salaries. I request that they postpone the election that they are rushing to have and instead provide the state sector with their full salaries.
PB Jayasundara.
As a trade union, we vehemently oppose this request made by PB Jayasundara as the secretary to the president. Do not give it. We are saying so with reason. This shows the bluntness of the government, that they are insensitive towards the needs of the people. This is not smart. We ask all state sector employees, do not make this a time to engage in trade union action during the corona problem. Also, we ask that the salaries of the ministers, state ministers and other officials be reduced first before trickling it down. An extensive discourse has ensued regarding the financial powers of the president. Yesterday, former MP Sunil Handunetti revealed that the Ministry of Finance had issued a vote-on account for the period between March and May after Parliament was dissolved. He also argued that issuing such a vote-on account, elaborating the government's revenue and expenditure at a time when Parliament remains dissolved, violates the Constitution. In light of these claims, Minister Bandula Gunawardena responded on behalf of the government today. He pointed out the issue stemmed from the opposition refusing to support the vote on account put forth by the government during the last parliamentary sitting. There was a vote on account approved until the 30th of April. We asked them in parliament to approve the new one. However, the opposition leader vehemently opposed it. We managed to overcome that hurdle. If parliament was functional, they would have been able to pull us by the leg, but now all they can do is complain. Is Minister Bandula Gunawardana's statement truthful? I would like to clear the wrong message delivered to the people of this country when the proposal was withdrawn. There are two parts in this proposal. We agree with the funds allocated for development projects and reliefs. That is the first part. However, we oppose the debt ceiling being increased. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa went to India and requested for a 3-year debt moratorium, claiming that the country cannot pay off its debts. Against such a backdrop, it is our opinion that the debt ceiling cannot be increased. Minister Bandula Gunawardana elaborated on financial powers as well. Article 155, sub-article 3 of the Constitution reads, where the President dissolves Parliament before the appropriation bill for the financial year has passed into law, he may, unless Parliament shall have already made provision, authorize the issue from the consolidated fund and the expenditure of such sums as he may consider necessary for the public services until the expiry of a period of 3 months from the date on which the new Parliament is summoned to meet. It has been written very clearly in all 3 languages. Thus, there is no complication. The President can bear the expenses. If anyone opposes this, they can file a case at the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court decides to imprison any cabinet minister for carrying out our collective responsibility to dole out money to the citizens during this crisis, we are ready to suffer in prison.
එතකොට මේ රාජ්‍ය නිලධාරීන්ට ඉදිරියේදී මේගොල්ලෝ පෙන්වා දෙන ආකාරයේ ගැටලුවකට මතු වුණොත් එහෙනම් මොකද්ද දෙන්නේ මේ සහතිකයේ ඇවතුමනි.
State officials are carrying out their duties, placing the utmost trust and faith in the President and the government. We will safeguard them. Do not have any reservations.
වැඩ කරන්නේ. අපි ඕම රකින්න. ඒ ගැන කිසි සැකයක් අවිශ්වාසයක් තියාගන්න එපා. මැතිවරණය කවදා පැවැත්වුණත් ඒ මැතිවරණය පැවැත්වලා අලුත් පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ඇවිල්ලා මාස 3ක් යනවා. ඕන මුදලක් වියදම් කිරීම බලය රජයට තියෙනවා කියන එක ඔබතුමා පැහැදිලි කළා. ජනාධිපතිතුමා. ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවේ 153 වෙනි වගන්ති
සිල් රිදි හොරු අහු වුණා.
The perpetrators of the silk cloth issue were found. Even Dr. P.B. Jayasundara had some problems like this. Some secretaries and officials were found in the Taj car park accepting bribes. Officials under former presidents, prime ministers, they also had to be arrested for taking wrong decisions. A government servant is accountable to the people. They are paid using the people's tax money. He must be truthful to the truth itself, his religion, his nature and the people. What I can say to these senior officials is not to be the puppet of any politicians and stand straight to work according to your conscience.
සත්‍යයට අනුව හෘද සාක්ෂියට අනුව වැඩ කරන්න කියන දේ තමයි.
While the Secretary to the President has made a request from state sector employees to donate their salaries for the month of May, and a raging debate on financial powers continues to ensue, the government has turned to the IMF for assistance. The IMF said the Sri Lankan government is currently in discussion with them to replace the extended fund facility or the EFF arrangement with the rapid credit facility.
The IMF's Rapid Credit Facility, or the RCF, provides rapid concessional financial assistance with limited conditions to countries facing an urgent balance of payment needs. It can provide support in a wide variety of circumstances, including shocks, natural disasters and emergencies resulting from fragility. Financing under the RCF carries a zero interest rate, has a grace period of 5.5 years and a final maturity of 10 years. The IMF's External Fund Facility assists countries experiencing serious payment imbalances and balance of payment problems. Sri Lanka's extended arrangement was approved on the 3rd of June 2016 in the amount of approximately $1.5 billion. In November last year, the IMF completed the 6th review of Sri Lanka's extended arrangement. According to the IMF, the 7th and final tranche, worth at least $190 million, expected to be granted this year, is likely to be delayed due to the ongoing health crisis in the global arena. Meanwhile, during a press briefing yesterday, the IMF made the following remarks.
What's the status of IMF rapid credit facility requested by Sri Lanka? When can we expect it? And now that the IMF program with Sri Lanka is about to be over, what kind of engagement will you have with Sri Lanka? I can confirm we have received a request from the Sri Lankan government for emergency financial support under the Rapid Financing Instrument. We will be working in close coordination with the government to assess all relevant factors related to that request. And I can also say that the Sri Lankan authorities have also expressed interest in a range of options for future engagement with the fund. And in this context, again, we're discussing the authorities' intention to replace the extended fund facility arrangement that they had with the rapid financing instrument. So I think that responds to the questions raised on Sri Lanka.
With that, we cross over to another short commercial break. Welcome back to the news. On to a headline-making story. The director of the Kurunegala Teaching Hospital, Dr. Sarath Veerabandara, was transferred to the Health Ministry with immediate effect. What was in fact the reason for the transfer?
The transfer letter states Dr. Sarath Veerabandara's contribution towards the efforts to combat COVID-19 was not sufficient. Today, a group identifying themselves as the Organisation to Protect the Kurunegala Teaching Hospital, convening a media briefing, condemned the conduct of the hospital director. We as an organisation had to contend with the elusive and inefficient conduct of Dr. Sarath Veerabandara, the director of our hospital. Our request at the time was for the removal of the hospital director and for a proper investigation into the allegations against him. The Health Minister, Health Secretary and the Director General of Health Services positively responded to our requests and removed the hospital director with effect from the 6th of May 2020 and transferred him to the Health Ministry. Instructions were also given to investigate the allegations made against him. A politician is controlling this group and he faced an issue with regard to a house. He was not pleased with what happened and together with a doctor in the hospital created an issue. I made inquiries and I discovered this doctor was working as a director to a certain ministry in secrecy. I have questioned the doctor in question about this. I have also made inquiries of a doctor who obtained money from businessmen in Kurunegala for efforts to combat COVID-19 but failed to present those donations to the hospital director. This doctor, supported by the politician and others, are working towards removing the hospital director. They had exerted some pressure on the Health Ministry to obtain the transfer. As of this evening, we were made aware the director continues to serve at the hospital. If this order given to remove the director and allow a competent authority to continue with hospital operations is not implemented, we would resort to a trade union action. As a permanent officer of the Public Service Commission, only the subcommittee of the PSC can order the transfer and disciplinary action. The subcommittee was not informed about it. In addition, it is unjust to make such a transfer at a time an election has been called for. I have written to the Secretary of Health to terminate this transfer, which has no foundation and which was done without preliminary inquiry. If she does not respond to it positively, I will take legal action.
The fourth edition of the GAMMAT, the door-to-door report, was launched by the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Peradeniya, Professor Upul Dissanayake, at the university premises today. In keeping with current safety precautions, the event was transmitted digitally to the GAMMAT team in Colombo.
The launch of the 4th edition of the Gammadda Door-to-Door community-based initiative was held virtually between the Newsfirst headquarters in Colombo and the University of Peradeniya. Mid last year, the Gammadda team of volunteers along with faculty and students of the University of Peradeniya drew up a plan of action that covered all districts and for the 4th time walked from village to village, collating information as they journeyed. The door-to-door initiative results in research that backs the launch of community-driven projects in villages across Sri Lanka. I wish to make this an opportunity to thank the Newsfirst Gammadda team. The painstaking task was completed by you. Nothing could stop you, rain nor shine. You went to rural villages, places that did not receive any attention. As the Peradeniya University, we are happy about the service this will render to the public. The University of Peradeniya and the Newsfirst head office was connected online for the launch of the door-to-door report.
If you look back at the past decades, successive governments carried out many programs to reduce rural poverty, but the situation has not improved. The real question is, why is this? Even after a colossal amount of money has been spent and a lot of resources are utilized, why is rural poverty more or less the same? There could be many reasons, but the rule of thumb is this: if you want to develop a village, first go to the village. If you want to develop the nation, go to the people.
අපි ගමක් සංවර්ධනය කරන්න නම් ගමට යන්න ඕන.
Now to some international news. Indian officials have ordered an investigation after 16 people were run over by a train in the state of Maharashtra.
The dead were migrant workers who had fallen asleep on the tracks while attempting to walk to a station from where they were hoping to get a train home. India has organized special trains to take migrants to their home villages. Tens of thousands of them fled cities on foot when India went into lockdown. After walking for 36 kilometers, they were exhausted and decided to rest. According to local media reports, the workers assumed that trains would not be running because of the lockdown and therefore slept on the tracks.
According to central bank data, Sri Lanka's rupee has strengthened to 191 rupees and 5 cents against the US dollar, recording a sharp appreciation following government-imposed import controls. The Sri Lanka rupee that weakened to a record low of 200 rupees against the US dollar on the 9th of April this year has appreciated by approximately 4.5% since then. On to more news on the central bank. Sri Lanka's gross official reserves have dropped by $353 million during the month of April. As of 30th April this year, gross official reserves were estimated at $7.18 billion US dollars. Foreign reserves have declined by $462.5 million so far this year. Yesterday, Newsfirst reported regarding an injured elephant calf which was found near the Munnekulama tank in Galgamuwa. Two groups of wildlife veterinarian officers in Nikavaratiya and Pandalugama arrived at the location to treat the injured animal today.
Area residents had come across this 5-year-old elephant calf while it had sustained gunshot injuries on its right leg. Residents said that the elephant had not been treated, although it had been injured a few days ago. Our correspondent reported that the injured elephant calf had moved to a further area from which it was found yesterday. Wildlife officers in the Galgamuwa area had supported the groups of veterinarians from Nikavaratiya and Pandulagama who had arrived in the area as well.
With that, we conclude tonight's English News Bulletin, but do not go anywhere. Faraz Shaukat Ali, who is in the newsroom, joins us with the Newsline program. Good evening to you, Faraz.
Very good evening to you, Chaturanga, and thank you very much. Indeed, very good evening and warm welcome to Newsline Live, where today we are having as our guest DIG Ajit Rona, who is head of legal at the police. He's right here with us, and we are open to questions from you. 0772 300 305. I'm sure you have lots of questions to ask DIG Ajit Rona, and his very familiar face, of course, and he's right here with me. Very good evening to you.
Good evening to
DIG,
you,
and thank you very much for coming on the program. Now, I'm sure that we have many things to discuss with you today, and the public will be. But if you will kindly indulge me, I'd like to just to tell and share with viewers of Newsline and everybody else, of course, that today marks the publication of the 4th edition of the Gammadda door-to-door program. This initiative is absolutely amazing. The people in rural Sri Lanka look forward very much to the arrival of the Gammadda team because it's usually, almost always, always marked by delivery as opposed to only expectation and promises. Usually too much of promises and no delivery at all. But the Gammadda door-to-door team has made it the norm to deliver, and I think their tagline ought to be Gammadda, we deliver. And we owe a very special thanks to our chairman, Mr. R. Rajamandran, whose initiative this is and who has worked tirelessly to implement this wonderful project, along, of course, with our colleagues at the University of Peradeniya, who have walked miles and miles, door to door, in search of data and research, and eventually to deliver what the people most want, whatever it is that they needed at the time from each community. And so wonderful thanks to everybody involved with the Gammadda team, including, of course, the ever wonderful University of Peradeniya. Thank you indeed very much for that. And back again to you, DIG Ajit Rona. Can I ask you, are we on target to lift this lockdown by Monday, the 11th?
Yes, well, first of all, I would like to express my sincere appreciations to TV1 and you for this giving me this opportunity to express our views, especially the police perspectives and health perspectives in respect of COVID-19. And at the outset, as you mentioned, that a decision has been taken to open up Colombo district or the other districts, Gampaha and Kalutara, on the 11th of May, coming Monday. While imposing the curfew, the government institutions and the private institutions will be open in order to create the day-to-day life in respect of general public.
Okay. Now then, many people have asked us this question, and that is, how is it going to work, the ID numbers? Is that going to be in operation from Monday?
Yes, in respect of this issue, two press releases had been issued by the Presidential Media Division a couple of weeks back, and the last statement was issued on the 4th of May. Accordingly, the employees who have been summoned to their workplaces,
okay,
so they don't need this ID number system, and it is not applicable to them.
So not applicable to the people who are going to work.
And they can show their service ID or any other document. Sometimes the document might be a hard copy, or it doesn't matter if it is a electronic version.
Right.
If it is on his smartphone, it is sufficient. But then the police corps who are on the road, so they will sometime inspect or examine that particular document, and they will allow them to proceed to their work.
So when you, can I be very specific, when you mean service ID, what you mean is the staff ID, the ID from issued by the company where you're working?
Yes.
So does this mean that everybody who's working can go to work?
Yes, but they need to have another document to prove that they have been called for their workplaces. I mean, they have been summoned by their superiors or the heads of the institutions for work.
Right.
So it might be a document, paper document, or otherwise, if it is in, electronic document.
So it could be an email that's on your smartphone.
Email
or a photograph
WhatsApp
of the document.
message. It is enough.
Indeed. And let me remind you, all our listeners, viewers, that you can send your questions right here, straight through to here, by SMS 0772 300 305. We're in conversation with DIG Aditrona, who is also the head of the legal division of the Sri Lanka Police. So this makes it quite clear now.
Yes.
If you have a job and your company is open, you can go to work, but you need a document. You need a document from your company, and you also need you have to have your staff ID with you.
Or the service ID.
And what about the issue of face masks, gloves, and so on?
Yes. In addition to that, if you don't have an ID or service ID, but if you are able to produce any other document related to your job, your employment, so it is sufficient.
Right.
It is sufficient. And in addition to that, so I need to emphasize something about this national ID card system, the last two numbers, last number. So initially we mentioned that, couple of weeks back, the employees who are going to their workplaces, their institutions, or the offices or factories, so they can go along with the documents that I have mentioned.
Right.
But apart from that, the other general public, they are not allowed to move from their residential places or their houses. So they have to stay at home, and if they need to go out, that particular ID card number system is applicable.
Right.
So now a special system has been initiated and introduced by the authorities.
Yeah.
So if you have a national ID card, if the last numbers are 1 or 2, then you can move, you can go out on Monday, or if it is 3 and 4, Tuesday. Likewise, a system had been introduced.
Right.
But you can go to the nearest market or the nearest pharmacy to purchase some essential items or drugs. Otherwise, you have to
even
stay at home.
even without, if I'm not 1 or 2, and I need drugs, I need to get to a pharmacy, then I can, doesn't matter about my card number, I can go to the nearest pharmacy.
No, but the problem is this, this particular system has been introduced by, various countries, not only in Sri Lanka but also other countries in the world, because in order to reduce the crowd, and apart from that, in order to maintain this social distancing system. So if it is the emergency case, it doesn't matter if the police are satisfied with the version given by the person, so he can move. But otherwise you have to wait till tomorrow, because tomorrow, let's say it might be a Tuesday, then the number 3 and number 4 will apply. Likewise, but there are emergency situations, so immediately you have to go to hospital, so you don't need the ID card number or any other curfew pass. Straight away you can proceed. It won't be an issue at all.
The doctrine of necessity.
Yes, exactly.
The police will be accommodative of the doctrine of necessity.
Yes.
And please don't abuse the system, because the system's been designed to protect you, me, and everybody else in this wonderful, beautiful country. Now then, several questions coming through DIG Aditrona. One is about the masks and about the gloves. Is that absolutely compulsory?
But in respect of face mask, yes, there are guidelines that have been published by the authorities. So they have to obey with that guidelines, rules and regulations. But if you are able to wear, gloves, so it is also appropriate. But the face masks are generally mandatory.
Right. Several questions. Somebody is asking, would a simple SMS be good enough to prove to the policeman on the road that you are actually going to work?
Yes. Then if the police officers, sometimes police officers might check it, but you need to have your service ID or the staff ID, and apart from that, if there is a suspicion, so definitely the police might check.
Be prepared for the police to check.
Yes.
So don't abuse the system.
Yes. We actually we need to allow all these employees to proceed to their workplaces without any hindrance.
Right.
But everywhere elsewhere, sometimes there are various type of people. They violate rules and regulation, impersonation cases. So therefore, our duty is to check all these issues.
Indeed. Now, many questions asking whether does this mean the fact that you're here with me on this program live, does it mean that definitely the curfew is lifted on Monday, the 11th?
No, but a clear message has been given that now the quarantine curfew has been imposed in respect of whole island till Monday.
Right.
So that curfew is terminated on Monday at 5 o'clock in the morning. All areas except Colombo, Kalutara, Putlam and Gampa district.
Right.
So other areas, as usually the curfew is lifted at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
And again, it might be imposed at 8 o'clock in the night.
Right.
Other areas except these 4 districts.
Right.
But here in Colombo, as you all know, our all important economical installations, government offices. So all these potential institutions are situated in Colombo district and in the vicinity areas, in the suburbs areas. So therefore, all institutions would be open, and we need to function all these institutions in order to provide food and other essential items, and apart from that, to be strengthen the economy. But the curfew is also imposed in these 4 districts in order to adhere with in order to prevent COVID-19 in adhering quarantine rules and regulations.
And I have a question from somebody in Colombo. How about the weekend? What are the numbers for the weekend?
So we have not introduced any system in respect of Saturday and Sunday so far. This particular system has been introduced only for weekdays, Monday to Friday.
So the 4 districts, Colombo, Kalutara, Gampa, does that mean that you're waiting for confirmation if it will be lifted on Monday, or are there very special conditions?
No, decision has been taken. It is not lifted on Monday.
It is not lifted. In these 4 districts, it is not lifted.
Yes, so far.
All right. Okay. So we must await further sort of information.
Yes.
So there you are. If you're in these 4 districts, the curfew is not lifted on Monday. You need to await further notification. Now, Diaji, being the head of police legal, under what law will you prosecute people who offend who are curfew breakers?
Well, it's a timely question, actually. This particular law introduced by the British rulers in 1897. In 1897, 123 years ago, it is called, this particular legislation is called Quarantine and Prevention of Diseases Ordinance. So time to time, this ordinance has been amended 9 times, and apart from that, 2 special regulations have been promulgated in relation to this particular legislation in 1925 and 1960. So accordingly, a person has been, a special person has been introduced by the regulation, so he is called proper authority. Proper authority. So I mean, the proper authority in respect of whole Sri Lanka is the Director General of Health Services. So in terms of the quarantine regulations, the section 37 of that particular regulations, his power could be delegated to anybody, any authority, any person, any officer. Accordingly, the DG Health Services has delegated his powers under the quarantine regulations to Inspector General of Police. So therefore, we are imposing quarantine curfew since the inception of this particular pandemic. So from the 8th of March, now we have arrested approximately 49,000 suspects.
49,000, that's a lot of people.
Yes, for a period of 57 days. And apart from that, 12,800 vehicles have been taken into police custody.
49,000, how many vehicles?
It's 12,800 vehicles.
How are you going to sell them? What's going to happen? Where are you parking them?
Some vehicles have been released, but some vehicles are in the police custody, and some vehicles have been produced before the court.
And the 49,000 people?
Yes, some of them have been charged under the quarantine law and the laws under the penal code. So therefore, if a person, any person has violated the quarantine curfew, they are dealt with the sections 4 and 5 of the quarantine ordinance, and apart from that, section 264 of the Sri Lankan Penal Code.
What can you expect? How many months inside?
In terms of the provisions of Penal Code, he is liable for a period of 2 years rigorous imprisonment, and apart from that, under the quarantine law, 6 months rigorous imprisonment along with 10,000 rupees fine.
It's pretty serious. Break the curfew law at your own peril, and remember, you go to jail if you do that. Now,
and especially I would like to mention that, so we now, as I mentioned, so we have arrested 49,000 suspects, persons in this connection. Without, I mean, our main objective, our main objective is to prevent this COVID-19. I mean, prevent spreading this COVID-19. So that is the objective. So I mean, we don't have any objective. So we need to terminate, eradicate this disease from Sri Lanka. So therefore, we have taken action. We have enforced the law under the quarantine ordinance.
In view of what happened to our colleagues, our fellow brothers and sisters at the Sri Lankan Navy, what measures have you taken so that the police officers won't contract this pandemic?
Yes, well, it's a very good question. At the inception, because as you all know, the first COVID positive patient was found in Sri Lanka on the 27th of January 2020. She is a Chinese national, and after that, first COVID positive Sri Lankan patient was discovered on the 11th of March 2020. So now it has been completed almost 2 months. So at the inception, the Inspector General of Police informed all officers in charge of police stations to establish a team consisting of 7 members.
Right.
7 police officers. So we provided all the necessary equipments to them. The kit, the appropriate kit, and apart from that, gloves and face mask, everything. So we have 494 police stations throughout the country. Accordingly, we had formed 494 teams. Each team consists of 7 police officers.
Right.
So every time, if there is a case, COVID case, they go to the scene, so they take people into custody, or they order people to be quarantined, self-quarantined, along with kits, and they were well equipped. So therefore, so that is the number one measure that we took. And apart from that, as you all know, at a police station, so every time we are using hundreds of books. It is called IBs.
Yes.
So we have a routine information book, police officers.
Yes, various books.
Various books. The Inspector General of Police inform all officers in charge of police stations to not to use this book individually by police officers.
Right.
So he instructed the station duty officer, he should make entries, so others should not make entries in IBs. So therefore that social distancing concept was adhered with this particular order, and apart from that, only 1 or 2 persons, so they use police IBs.
Right.
And in addition to that, people, they go to police station to make complaints, general public. So we created a special place in front of the police station in keeping this social distancing concept. So
yes,
therefore,
I saw that,
yes,
that mountain.
yes.
Yes.
So those are the measures that we took in order to prevent COVID.
Now, very quickly to wrap up as we come to the last 5 minutes. This is not police curfew, this is quarantine curfew.
Yes.
And therefore, Mr. Sumandaran's concern and maintenance that this is illegal is incorrect? Because
yes.
it is...
Absolutely, it is incorrect, because he made a statement. He made a statement in front of the courthouse Nugegoda on the 20th of April.
Yeah.
Then thereafter, I attended court along with my legal officers, and at that time the court held that court said that such type of order had not been delivered by the court.
Right.
And apart from that, so we sent our observations along with our arrest and the methodology, everything, our empowerment to Honorable Attorney General. So Honorable Attorney General also, approved the system we imposed in respect of
so this is the bottom line is, ladies and gentlemen, this is not police curfew, it is quarantine curfew. And then the next step is people are asking in the areas that are not under curfew, that is, these apart from the 4 districts which are still under curfew, in the other areas, when people go to work, can they cross districts?
Yes. Now, at the inception and from the very outset, we introduced a system in respect of essential services.
Right.
So essentials. Now you are a journalist, and apart from that, a media person. So you can cross borders for your
in pursuit of my work.
Yes, official purposes, along with your ID.
Yeah.
Likewise, the same system is adopted in respect of this particular issue.
Can they go to work by crossing districts?
Yes. Now let's say that as you all know, the majority of employees who work in Colombo city and in the vicinity of areas, they come from Gampha district, they might come from Kegol or Ratnapura or Kalutara district. They can cross, but sometimes police might check them. So that particular system is adopted for this.
Thank you, DRG Ajitrona. It's been very interesting talking to you, and especially members of the public will appreciate the clarity with which you have explained the rules and the regulations. In the meantime, we must, of course, leave you this evening with the information, two things really. One is the launch of the Gammad door-to-door campaign's fourth edition, along with the University of Peradeniya. And number two, because we are in such exceptional circumstances, we must really all pay attention to the very theme song, Rise Up Sri Lanka, because together we can sort this. We can crush whatever it comes our way. Yes. And together, I think, DIG Ajitrona, together we can all go great places. So on that note, it's Rise Up Sri Lanka. Take care and have a wonderful evening ahead of you. This is Newsline Live. God bless. Thank you.